Man, that ABC was good, wasn't it?
What can you say? When it's
Yeah, it
good, it's
was
good. That one
super
was good.
nice. Half square ABC in your support, your dash support zone. I mean, come on.
Squaring out 45 by 45,
45 by 45. I mean, everything right there.
everything. Which is surprising. It's rare when everything sets up nicely.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
So
And
you wonder, is the universe trying to trick you by saying
yeah,
everything's lined up, so it's a layup?
well, I used to think that, when in the old days, I would have like when I used to day trade a lot more. If I
Right,
had like three, four, five, six different things line up, I'm like, nah, that's not going to work. And often it didn't. You'd have to have
right,
like three things that doesn't
right.
correlate line up. But if you have a lot of things right now, I'm always suspicious. It's like,
It serves you well in the markets because
mm,
it makes
the
sense because the markets, the markets punish consensus and they punish the obvious almost all the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just goes back and forth.
Yep,
Nobody's
it
safe.
does. It does.
Well,
So
let's
where
take
do we go from here? What do
well,
you what is the chart saying to you from here?
well, technically the chart's saying we should get a bounce, but price
Mhm.
over here at 370 is saying, well, maybe not so quick. so,
Right.
so far the down move was perfect. Textbook
Hmm.
move
Hmm.
down, ABCD down, right into square, 45 by 45.
Hmm.
Had the we had these levels here for months probably.
Yeah.
This entire time we were up above, we had these levels down. You guys can go check the old old podcast that we've had. And even when we were topping out here, we called out this high. We were kind of expecting it to land around 43.70, and if that failed, we saw this other low. If that got taken out, we were expecting it to land in this block right here that we colored out, which is between 42.97 and 43.25. And we didn't do too badly.
No,
Um,
that was good.
that is
Really
kind of
good
where it
call.
came in, but I mean that's been there for a while because from the charts. But what came that was new was the square coming off the high, this 90-degree
Hmm.
square. So 40, the middle is 45 by 44.5. So that was new, and so the fact that that square came smack in the middle of these levels is the thing that's kind of magical.
I call that price and time.
Yeah, price. Yep, yep. Price and
Price and time.
technically, when price and time come together like that, what Gann always said was, well, it balances out and it has to pause.
Hmm.
So technically, we could get down into some kind of a consolidation between the half square level and 43.70 because that seems to be the block here,
Hmm.
and the half square is right around let's say 42.73, and the other is for it to have a trend change and go on back up to check the highs, and
Hmm.
depending on the overall pattern we have to really figure out, well, what happens if this kind of a pattern took place down near the lows. What does that mean? Well, obviously that has a different meaning than if we square it out on the first correction on this big leg up, right?
Now that's very insightful because I was thinking that today. I was like, the question is this the first leg down that finished,
Mm-hmm.
or is it just a correction off of that high and we're going to go up, and take out those highs?
Right,
That's the unknown right now.
right. And so this is where we have to look at the evidence. Like, what is it? What do we have here that would tell us, tip it in one way or the other?
Hmm.
And one of them is really, that's why we have this weekly chart. So if you go up here, it's a little bit of a different picture. Now, you
Hmm.
notice when I drew that lower channel line in, and we kind of laughed about it and said, well, we got plenty of room to correct, not a problem. and,
Right, right.
and then I mentioned this high, and I said, well, at least we should come and test this area before we do anything, and it still be perfectly fine. And then I drew this box out saying that if we get to the half square, well, fine. The uptrend is still intact. It's actually a healthy correction,
Hmm.
getting back down to the 50% of the square. So even coming down in through here, the 50% of the weekly square would be around 41. Let's say 41. It's 41.60, but let's say 41.50. Even if we drop down a little bit,
Hmm.
41.50 would be right in there, which would be perfectly normal. So that would be a correction in an uptrend. That's how you'd look at it. But what we have here is we have this huge high that squared out and everything, all the cycles expired here. Then we had this downtrend. We had this huge correction. 81.
That also ended right on a timing.
Right on, yep, on the 80.
Right on timing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the correction off of that.
Right on timing.
Right on time on 81 weeks there. So now, and it's squared out with the 7/8 in price.
Yep.
So now the question is, well, what happened here? Well, you have to go back to the bigger picture and say, well, the bigger picture is really still kind of pointing down. We didn't really come down to support where the weekly support would be, which is around 41, 50, 60 in this area, right? Where the box is. So looking at that, I would say this high is still in place. And whatever bounce we get, I mean, look, if you just go by the book, we can go all the way up to 45, 57 and still be
bearish. Yeah.
Still intact. No,
as long as it makes a lower high off that.
Matter of fact, let's just draw that out. So
draw the trend line.
You're be a technical trader. This is what you have to do. And then, so there you go. So it can come all the way up here and still be where we can technically say we're in a downtrend and momentum still pointing down. Now, the fact that why are we thinking this uptrend is not going to continue? Well, it's because of the timing. We had this cycle hit exactly. We had the 50%. So this action here, this pattern is really pointing to a deeper correction. So if we get down to 50%, okay, then we can at least start thinking about it, right? Because that's a decent support. So here, it's really not showing up, at least on this square, unless somehow after we put in this high, the vibration change, and now we're running maybe a 52 or a 60 if it's something else, but it's too early to call that. So we'll just trade it as we, like we always do. We'll just trade it by the book.
Level to level.
Level to level. And speaking of level to level, well, let's look at the 30-minute real quick, because we've been looking at that.
That thing's been really hot.
30 minutes has been really good. So we had a square at 90 running up until we get down to here on the 27th. And then I realized we were running a 72 coming off that because we squared out. And from there, it's been pretty good. We had really only a couple of levels. We had, in this entire range, we've only had 2 levels. All right. And we nailed them perfectly. So first it was 43.70, 43.20. We talked about I don't know if we talked about it last time. Maybe that was, well, anyway, we had 43.20. We had to get above that. So what did we do? We spun around that.
Battled around there. Yep.
About it. Once we picked up enough, let's just say velocity, we went right up to the next line, 43.45, corrected overnight in the triangle. Of course, it broke out to the upside. And here it looked like, man, we were ready to go and test this 43.80 area because this is a very held and it's really a positive sign. But, well, wasn't bad, 17, 20 points. So from there, we ran up into the 43.67 level that I've had. That's kind of a ghost level. That's why I have it in gray, because sometimes it could work, sometimes it might not. But today, that area just really stalled it out. You can see how much we tried to push, regardless of what options guys were trying to do. It just eventually just rolled over. And this morning's post, I said, if we lose this 43.45, we're probably going to, just
chop
through. Yep. And what did we drop to? Next to the next square, half square.
Yeah.
So we held that 43.20 and rallied. So now we're basically stuck between 43.20 and 43.45. Very tight range, I would say. And it, being above 43.20 at this point just suggests we're going to have more sideways or weakness. We really had to get above and stay above. Like if we had closed up in here, I think it would have been more positive. So the fact that we're closing, unless we get up there on Sunday night, the futures, that is, the fact that we're closing below 43.45 in between in here, it's suggesting, maybe Monday, Tuesday, continued weakness, or maybe come up and check some of these lows again.
If you look at your low, Barrie, and just look at it like a mirror image, wouldn't it be crazy if it did the opposite of what it did coming into that? Because it's almost doing that right now. You see the pattern?
meaning we'll just move up this way.
Yeah, just grind. You can see the next two boxes
that could
would
be
be
here.
yeah.
That
Then
could be
these
there,
things are
right?
you have the grind here for two boxes, and then
Mhm,
maybe
mhm.
take off after that. I mean, we'll
Yeah,
see.
certainly. Yep. So, but we'll know that, we have the line. So if it's
Yeah.
holding above that, okay, fine. And we're making higher lows in shorter time frames, great. If we clear this, I would say that's almost a green light. And if we can clear 43.67, and let's say all these consolidations happening right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? That would be very, very positive. Positive borderlining, you better get long.
Right.
But down here, it looks like unfinished business. So let's just leave it at that. That's what I would, that's how I would read it. Even though the low came in really well, right? We squared out here, and it's a level we were watching. This 42.75 was exactly where it came in. But if you look at the daily, we were looking at 42.97, and we had another number in that area from another chart. So it's all in there. Now, the flip side of this is, if this low gets taken out at some point, it's going to be sort of fast and furious getting down into this lower half of the square.
Yeah, down to the 4,200, 4,100 pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, if we use the half square, technically we can get down to the full square.
Yeah, full
That's
square.
the whole point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it just so happens at that level we have this 39.16, which we've had there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes these levels sort of work like magnets. So we'll see. But for any of that to happen, we have to lose this low we had in Wednesday. So
right.
So far, that hasn't happened. So for next week, guys, if we take out 43.7 to the up, 70 to the upside, I think we would have enough strength to probably somehow get up into this 44.75 area again and check that out. If not, I mean, using your normal technical analysis, we got this 44.34. We had this low here, and that could be kind of a resistance area. But either way, I think.
What are you using as your support for the coming week? 43.25 again?
40. Well, yeah. Well, 40. The support would be right in here. The 42. 42.70, 72, right in there.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be the half square.
The half square.
Because any pullback above that stops above that is fair game. We got the 1, 2, and we'll have the 3, right? So that would be the first counter trend. And it would have to be Monday, Tuesday. We'll figure this out very quick. Because we're going to have a counter trend. I mean, let's say Monday we go higher, Tuesday we're higher. Well, the first pullback would have to settle above 43.70 then, if we're end up here. Okay, great. Let's say we don't, and we pull down back into just check the 42.70 area. All right, fine. Then we have a higher low, and then we can expect the third to take this out and maybe get up into 44.75. So that's kind of how I'm framing it. But the whole thing has to come back to, just like when we were coming down, you see how important of a role this 43.70 had played from these lows to that low. And now today, if you really look at this, the high tapped right into that.
What was it, 72 or something was the high?
It was 71.
There you go.
All right. So, and we have 43.70 versus 71. So, so there's something to it. So next week we're going to watch that, and the basic idea is we're going to, consider the market to be weak below that, and looking for support and for it to hold here. If we can hold and the patterns start to look like we're, let's say 30 minutes, we're trying to taking out the levels to the upside and we're making higher lows, great. Get positioned and watch out for 43.70. And if we can clear that, then I think, like I said, we got another 100-point gap here.
And to your point, right now, we only have a 2-day counter trend, right? 2 up days. So it needs to keep going to really convince that, okay, that something definitely changed.
Well, that's the other thing, right? So are you thinking like 1, 2, 3 down, that kind of a thing?
Possibly, right?
Yeah.
And we only have 2 up bars so far, right? 2 days up.
Yeah. And
if we turn down right away early next week, that's not a good sign.
So 43.70 is the key. But like I said earlier, if we take out this low, Then we enter the lower half of the square and things could get really squirrely down here. I mean, really after that, 4150 is really the level. Yeah, we have a box here. It looks like there's some resistance. I don't think that's going to hold that kind of force coming, breaking an ABCD like that and a square usually means we're going to go for the full square. True. I mean, that's just how it is.
Right.
By the book, that's kind of how it should work theoretically. Not that they always work out like that, but you got to keep those things in mind. So if this goes, expect a lot of weakness. If it's held, 50% holds, around 4270 to 4370, then we can expect some kind of longer consolidation. And during that, we can figure out which way it's going to break. That's kind of it.
No, it's good. Good analysis.
Okay. And we looked at the weekly already. I don't think we need to go back into that. And I guess the thing to note here is it doesn't look like it's done.
No.
So we have a half square here.
We'd like to see a weekly reversal. That would make the bullish case much better.
So this gets down to 4160. Okay, the 50% of the square on the weekly. And if you there it is. So it's right there. Isn't that funny how they all line up?
Yep.
Unrelated, people. Unrelated. All right, let's go on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities show. We are recording here Friday evening, September 29th. It is the last day of the week, of course, because it's Friday. Last day of the month and the last day of the quarter, Barrie.
That's right. And we made it.
Hey, we made it. But that also means the year is 3/4 of the way over.
Oh, yes.
But this fourth quarter should be a banger. I mean, the way the markets are setting up, I know we got a lot to cover today because there was a lot of action and a lot of movement this week. But let's start with Bitcoin here. The thing that struck me when it is, okay, you could say, yes, it's sideways, but the market's made lows this week. We didn't make a new low on Bitcoin. We didn't make a new high, so it's going sideways, but it looks like we're dead stuck in this half square channel. Yeah. Right here to right here. All the levels, by the way, are up on a Google Doc spreadsheet, which when we post the links to the show tomorrow, we'll post the link to the spreadsheet. So for me, you're in no man's land here. If we can get down here and hold, you can get a long trade. If we get up here and get stuck under, you can get a short. Right now, you're in no man's land. I don't know if you have any other brilliant additions to that, but
I think we should probably have to drop down to hourly charts. Otherwise, every week we're going to be like, well, it's just sideways. I mean, look at that, 3-4 months. I mean, actually about last.
Don't
6
you
months.
long for the days of that? I mean, in this thing, if you look at it, it was the Wild West, but technically and with the geometry, man, squares worked fantastic with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, we called out that high up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember that?
I remember that one, and we caught it, and so hopefully we get back to this at some point. Until then, it's this.
Yeah.
Find better vehicles, and there are better vehicles. And speaking of better vehicles, let me throw it to you, and let's get the big five going, because, like I said, a lot of stuff going on, and we got our the Rebel Yell cycle is Sunday.
Okay.
This was a long, like the last one was in July, which I think caught the high. So is this one catching the low? We'll see. Let's see what the technicals say. Oh, look at that.
I changed I think the original ABCD was from here, this high.
Right.
ABC.
Yeah.
Then I realized, halfway through, like, wait a minute, that's
a bigger one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bigger one that's coming into it. And we, pretty well got to 90. I mean, you got to give it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still a little suspicious because, we got the 135 here. We have the timing line, price and time would be perfect in here. So I feel like maybe it's not done. Let's see.
More to go.
So, yeah, more to go. I think we have to treat it like bonds are not done yet.
It's late innings, though. I can tell you.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting into 90 right here. So
yeah,
getting late long in the tooth. But but it's
Like
little too early to call it a low. Just to
Agreed.
because we don't have any other highs to go off of here. Just to line
It's
that
too
up.
late to short, too early to buy.
Yeah, kind of like a song for the grains.
Right. Right.
Song of the
Right.
grains, right?
Right.
Anyway, so bonds, draw your tighter trend lines, and I'm basically looking at it to be weak up until we actually complete the ABCD or get into, let's say, at least 112.
Mm-hmm.
All right, nice round number. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the low this week was
Like 113 and change, right?
well, this not too far. It's 12 and 10, 12, 10. So,
That's what I mean. We're right there.
oh, we had 10 ticks, and that's not too bad in bonds, but let's see. So, but we know, the yellow light's on. We know we came down into 90. Yes, it's possible that we rally. I mean, look at the overhead now, right? So we got this 1/4 of the square at 17 and a half right there.
Massive, yeah.
Massive. So if anything, we're going to go up into here,
Test it. Yep.
roll back down again, and we can switch right into the weekly chart.
There's the 144.
There we go. Boy, I've been
waiting
calling
on
that
that.
for a while.
We've been waiting on that one. There it is.
For months, man. Months.
And look where it settles.
Yeah,
right on the line.
Right on the line. Look at that. 30 versus 14, right?
Yep.
One tick. So that's
Yep.
2 ticks. That's great.
Yep.
All right. So are we going to call this a low? Technically, we're definitely hit some support. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got it. You got to like look both ways before crossing the street in bonds now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we would call that, and bonds, yeah, let's just call it that. And, the fact that we broke through the trend line and kind of exhaustion kind of a move here, climactic kind of a move. So it's possible that we have a low because we did get to our long-term low here, and you can see where all that support is, right? So look at this.
Yeah. There's another thing, Barry. You love these big squares on the monthly. On bonds from the August high, we did 72 by 36. August of 2020.
Okay.
72 by 36 on a monthly.
That's really important. Down to here, right?
Yep. At the low this week.
So then, I mean, looking at the old, I mean, we're definitely at support. We can't say it's not. What I would say is now to see how the counter trend or the next leg starts up.
Yeah.
We have to we have to at least act like, okay, possibly we ended that leg since we've been waiting on it for so long. I'll check the timing a little bit better for next week and get this kind of flushed out for the week after.
Sure.
New quarter. But for now, looks like with the end of the quarter, we came right down into the target, and there's our price support band from back in the days.
Way back when.
So it looks good. Maybe it's done. Maybe we'll check the low again. So give it a minute to turn around.
And if you're short, watch your shorts and take some money off the table.
Sometimes, even if the weekly comes in like that to price, the daily would have to come in and square out before all said and done. That happens a lot. So,
like a cleanup move before they move it higher.
It would have to square out somewhere. So I'm guessing it's going to square out. I mean, it would be great if it squares out right there in October. And that's about second week of October, 11th, 12th. Yep. It's possible we get that in bonds. And so if we go off from this high, didn't quite get to any meaningful number. This is why I'm a little bit suspicious.
Sure.
Right. So I think let's give it a little bit of time and see how it behaves, but definitely on support. So maybe it's time to start looking at your shorts if you've got any left.
Right.
Like, why fight for a couple of ticks when you had that entire leg?
Well, if you're still short from much higher, congratulations on holding. But don't overstay your welcome.
Yep. Crude did really well. Our target was really somewhere between 97 and the ABCD up. Looks like we hit it. If you take into account the rollovers and everything and the premium built in, I think we hit the number. So we're good. Looking for a correction. 91. I really don't have where the correction will go. We'll have to just kind of watch it. But for now, we are to come back around 88. Looks like the support, because you see this little triangle here. If you look at the smaller time frames, it's there like that. And we ought to come in, probably test that area. And if you draw this out properly, it's right around 88. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're expecting it. Well, not that it's too far. It's a couple more bucks and we should be there. So we're looking for some kind of a correction. If we can hold above, let's say 87 and a half or so, I think crude's still going to be very bullish. No question about it. I mean, clearly
Even if
above
it
80.
comes back to your thin, green box there, it's still going to be bullish.
Yeah, that's the 83. Yeah, exactly. Even
Mhm.
if we get down to here, it's fine. It's a normal, very healthy correction, I would say.
Mhm.
So we'll leave it at that. We had a nice run, 2 legs, got to target. That's it. It's time to take a breather.
Agreed.
I mean, nice to close out legs, eh?
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Just to be able to call it out. Yeah. And well, the weekly, it's a little bit more bullish.
Mm-hmm. But we could pull back to that 45 and still be super bullish.
Actually, that would be like the most bullish thing it could do.
Yeah. Come back and just sit on top of that.
So we'll be watching that. And you can see how the range expanded going up into that high. So that's kind of a sign that it's ready to take a break. And we've been talking about how many weeks it's been going up.
Mhm.
And I remember talking either last week or the week before about these highs here. And I
Mhm.
said, if we do that, I mean, if anything, we should go up there and check the highs, do a false break.
There it is.
And there it is. So
Mhm.
those are the highs, there's a false break. So giving us a little bit more evidence towards what? Towards thinking the leg is done.
Yeah. And then it needs to
Gotta pull
take
up
a
your
breather.
shorts.
Mhm. Right.
Longs, I mean, you'd be pretty
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
longs.
Yep.
All right. So getting on to shorts is actually the next one, which would be gold.
Right.
Well, it worked out perfectly, man. I mean, we had this triangle drawn out and we were looking at it rotating around 1940. We said, listen, this is really important. If we take this out, starts going lower, take out this, we're done. And I
And
said
there you go.
1887 should be the next stop. Well,
Blew
so much
through
for
it.
that kind of targeting. We went way below that.
Right.
And that's okay. So maybe we're working out this one.
I think the big ABCD does look like
Yeah,
what
I
we're
mean, that
doing.
would be very bullish for gold.
Sure.
So it should be, this is all very healthy. And I think this might be the last big correction if we were to, if that's how you want to look at it.
Mhm.
So you really want to let this play out, finish up, and we want to watch how it finishes up. We want to see if it's how it squares out, where does it go to, all these little details. And once we know that, I think the upside would be very, very lucrative. So
Agreed.
now it's just on the short side, it's still weak.
Yeah.
1887. If we're below that, just consider it to be weak all the way down to 1800.
Let it finish up.
Yep. And here's a really doozy of a bar.
Oh boy. Look at that.
Mm-hmm. And that looks like it's heading right to the
right to target.
Right to the target, which is 1824, 1800, right in there.
Yeah.
All line up. Took out 1919, which is what we talked about week before, 1881. So we're heading down. And if the ABCD doesn't cover it, then we have this 1767. I'll also work up these numbers. I haven't looked at these for a while because we've been up here for so long. So I'll take a look at that.
Sure.
But for now, not much. Just it's let's just say it's on the soft side.
Mm-hmm.
Copper, not so soft.
No, it held up really well.
Buyers came in nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're consolidating here between this 354, which is really an important number. And you can see we didn't even get close to that. We've been holding really well above it all these times. And we didn't make that much of a lower low.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not all that bullish till we get above the square. So 383 continues to be the level. Up until then,
the sideways continues.
Or maybe a little bit weaker, but that's just how it is. Well,
weekly's trying to get back inside your channel.
Weekly is really trying to get back in line. You got to give it some credit.
Yeah.
Not a bad job.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Let's see. I mean, I could tilt the fork just a little bit to maybe, let's see. No, that'd be too much. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. let's say if it recovers, I mean, that would be very bullish if we can do that. And so far, I mean, this is all very messy. Weekly is not giving us anything other than sideways. So we'll leave it at that. We don't want to get involved. Right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the dollar. Do I even have to say anything?
Unbelievable, huh?
Look at that. Of all the places it could have pulled back to.
That's a critical spot, because what happens there is going to tell you what's going on, right?
Right. Exactly. And what's happened there was it held.
It did hold and bounced hard, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's doing good. So here, when we took out this ABCD here, it just basically signals, just like the ABCD that we're dealing with. Well, it's the reverse of what I said for the ES.
Yeah.
The fact, if we take it out, it definitely turns everything bullish to the upside. Just like if we take it out to the downside, it'll be weaker for a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And here, what's the bullish stuff? Well, guys, when we talk about, getting above a line and holding above, this is exactly what it is.
There's your textbook
This is the textbook
example
of that. We got above, pull back, holds above, and here we go. Now, come Monday, we might drop it, but then we know what the line is. So you want to always watch that. So the line is really like 10, let's say 105.60 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So long as we're above that, it's very bullish, and 107.25 is the next target. If we take that out, boy, that really opens it up. I have to tell you that.
Yeah,
that's what happened. The thing is, we had a chance to do a false break here and turn back down. We didn't do that. So it looks, right here. So that was 3-4 days ago, and false breaks really don't materialize after that long. So it has to be fairly quick. And here it looks like it's held. So we're still looking at the long side of the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the weekly dollar, well, we hit that damn target, didn't we?
Half square. Yep.
So, I mean, that's why we
right on it
down. That's why we corrected. I mean, I don't know. I hope you guys are watching this. So we had this 106.75 there, and I even tapped it last week, or talking about that we could, if we clear this, that's the next spot. And this is what I mean. If we can hold above this area, that 50% of the square, which is right at, let's say 106.25 or so,
mm-hmm.
then, I mean, it really opens up. We can really start to move. And so I'm a little suspicious here, because we did hit a key level, this 106.75 on the weekly. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a correction is in order.
Have you noticed that, Barrie, in a lot of markets, legs ended, things ended?
Yeah, right with the quarter.
Right with the quarter, there's decision points everywhere.
Yeah. With the quarter, with the full moon, everything lined up.
with the rebel yell cycle.
Yeah.
It's all coming into a very
nice
interesting period.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to quickly get through euro, not much. Downtrend is still in force. I really don't have anything to go off of. Just like the dollar, the uptrend continues. We have to look at the euro and say the downtrend continues, because we took out the half square. So, and trend line is down. Everything's down. So we'll leave it at that. Looking at the weekly, picture's not any prettier.
Right.
It's actually racing towards that line, the 288,
down
from the high. So, yeah, it's dollars.
Let it finish.
Euros a week. Yeah, let it finish up.
Mm-hmm.
We're staying with the short side. 103, 104 is sort of the level there. That's all I got.
Excellent.
Thanks. Well, you didn't really have a low come in like the S&P, did you?
No, it's
kind of hanging in the air.
It's very different. We did have a false break. You can see the false break there,
right?
But unlike the S&P that held the trend line from the from the lows,
you came and kissed it from below.
we broke it, and then we come back and kissed it. And look at this. We couldn't close over the half square.
Mm-hmm. Well, that kissing it, the line from below, is just negative altogether, just by itself.
Absolutely. And the other interesting thing, though, Barrie, which says about strength, is we didn't complete the ABCD. So it's a mixed bag for sure here.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly weaker, but look at that.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't complete that. So the key level is this right now, is this 14,955.
That's your 4370 level.
That's right. It's the half square.
Yeah.
We got to get over that. We got to sit on top of that. If we can sit on top of that, then we can come up here and challenge, the downtrend line, and we can challenge this full square up at the like 15,550, 560 area.
Mm.
So it's a mixed bag, but overall, I'd say it's weaker, right? Because we lost the trend line from the lows. We couldn't close over the half square. We back tested the trend line as well.
Right.
So we got to see what happens. So, we've got 2 days up so far. Let's see what, Sunday night, Monday brings. But with, with everything.
I mean, I think in your case, it's really about if we can hold about that half square or not.
100%. Let's look at the weekly. I want to show you the weekly and the monthly too, because there's more information there. The weekly held the trend line. But it's more of like a a wedge or a triangle here that we're stuck in.
Whereas the S&P didn't.
Whereas the S&P didn't. And then the monthly, here's another view. Just held on to the half square.
Forget that. Look at the downside.
Yeah, huge. But the thing to notice is we made a lower low this month, right? Last month here, this month here. So we have the squares, we've got the levels. Watch them.
One more month down, and if October is down, we're going to have entire down leg starting in the monthly.
Correct. So there's clouds on the horizon. We just got to see if this move can get over shorter term. We look at this, as Barrie said, the half square here is the key. Get over it, sit on top of it. We can rally or consolidate up here. Right. If we stay under here long enough, these lows are going to go. We're going to have to go down and either finish this ABC or find support on the full square. On the commodity side, let's flip over to the commodities. The grains all made interesting down moves today that are possibly, and I emphasize possibly, terminal moves. It's way too early to put them up here and talk about setups or anything, because we don't even have a low. There's no great squares yet. So they're looking at putting them in, but it sure looked like somebody was dumping the grains today. So that bears watching. We're also bears watching because we're in two of the markets, in wheat and corn. We're in areas of strong weekly, monthly support. They were highs from the big consolidation before the breakout. So, all those things tell me, okay, I got to keep my eye on grains, and we got to watch and see if we get some setups. Interesting thing, Barrie, that you'll like on this one. Wheat, monthly, we've got 18 months from high to low. Perfect 18 months in September. So again, watch those. It's interesting. We gotta see if we get some support and some setups come in. They could be, setting up over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks for good entries on the long side.
On wheat, I got to tell you this, from the second high, the lower high in 2022, which came in, what was it, in May? I think middle of May high, to today, we are squaring out 360 by 360 on wheat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's on your daily?
Yep. So that's worth noting. So we can pick it up next week.
Yeah. And that 18-month low had me interested too. I was like, okay, that's important. So 360 by 360 is big.
Yeah.
So yeah, Barrie and I'll do work on those, and we'll talk about them next week. As I said, from my scan, it just there was dumping into this quarter end, month end, and into a cycle window, which always gets my attention. So we'll watch it and we'll report. Nothing to do yet. Gold, silver, copper. Barrie showed you gold. Gold is bearish. Silver and copper are still sideways and chopping. Sort of coiling in triangles. So there's nothing to do there. Barrie reviewed crude very well. Nice run. expect a correction.
Mhm.
What we're going to talk about today is I've got 2 commodity shorts and 2 commodity big bases, which we all know about. But let's start with the short, with the existing short that we talked about last week.
Mhm.
It's cocoa, and we had a very nice week on the short side. We closed last week here.
Yep.
Key thing is we closed this week under this
Mhm.
full square, and we took out the low that Barrie wanted to see us take out,
Mhm.
which was right on the full square. So this thing, and we're below the harmonic balance point, as you can see, broke the trend line. So things are starting to roll over, and there was a little bit. I was watching, the trades in cocoa this week. There was a little bit of dumping, a little bit of panicking going on.
Mhm.
The one thing I would say and caution for just diving in right here, and on the daily, it looks great, right? Because we still have room down to the half square,
Mhm.
which is around 33.64. But let's take a look at the weekly and monthly and see why we may get a counter trend. There's your weekly.
Yep.
But we broke the steep trend line, right?
Mhm.
So momentum is no longer there. It's cracked. We broke the trend line, but seeing a bounce up to here or anywhere in here would be completely normal. And if it makes a lower high and rolls over, it's really bearish on a weekly. But the low came right on full square support.
Right.
Here's another reason why you gotta watch what you're doing. The monthly came on full square support.
Mhm.
Again, doesn't mean it's bullish. It just means heads up, it's got to get through these levels to make more downside progress, or we could have some sort of retrace. Because you can
I
see
tell you
this.
what, though, on that monthly, that 3,000 looks like the support,
Yep,
right?
down in here, right?
Yeah, it
28,
does. Yeah.
2,800 to 3,000 for sure. And then once I think they crack these bigger supports, that's where we're heading, right? Back in to test this whole multi-year, consolidation that we did. Right now, it's finding support up here on these highs and the full square. But the trade looks good. The setup's still there. Just beware of the fact that we're catching weekly and monthly support on a full square. That may give us a bounce. And if the bounce goes up into here and fails, it's perfect. That'd be a beautiful setup. So stick with the cocoa. Just beware of what's going on the higher time frames. The other one that's set up that I pointed out to Barrie, and we were talking about it earlier in the week, I didn't post anything because I just wanted to put it on the show, is sugar. Now let's look at sugar. Been in a bull market since late last year. We rode this up. We participated, had nice profits on the long side. And then this move, huge divergences came in on momentum. And these are the squares. These are Barrie, get Barrie's attention squares. The daily, 144 by 180 from the January low.
Mm-hmm.
144 up, 180 in time. Big square. Let's look at the weekly. Close below full square support. That's really important. And old highs. But the square here at the high on a weekly basis, 81 by 81 from the lows in here in February, March.
Mm-hmm.
81 by 81. Big square there. Monthly. Didn't quite make it to the half square,
Mm-hmm.
but the interesting square here, 72 by 60.
Yep.
60 months, 72 in price. There's enough major squares that showed up at that high that
Mm-hmm.
we really need to pay attention. And what we're seeing now on the daily, which is if we're trying to trade this, it's more difficult to trade the dailies. Try and trade a monthly if you're trying to play the big move. You try the daily here. We've had the first pullback off of the low, right?
Yep.
we came down off the high, off the square, good reaction off the square. We came up, tested this half square, failed. This is the spot you want to get short sugar.
Yeah.
And I think minimum targets here are down into the 25 range. And if we lose that, then you're talking like 23, these lows here.
Hey, I was going to just squeeze in and say, I want to give a level. And that's exactly what it was.
23?
23 and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, and the harmonic balance points at 23.68. So you could put a box in here as sort of your target. Right.
Yeah,
in
that's
this
a
area.
very reasonable, healthy target right there.
And a good risk reward ratio. Look what you're risking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your risk would be from here to here. Your reward is from here to here. Or this box. So that's the setup in sugar. We called the high coming in, noticed all these big squares this week and said it's a very similar setup to what we saw in cocoa a few weeks back. So those are the two commodity shorts right now. Anything else you want to add on the sugar?
Well, just the target. That's it. Everything else is set up.
Yeah, the setup's there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's look at our big bases because there were some interesting developments there. Cotton. What I want you to notice here, right? It still looks boring, right? Because it's not doing anything. It's still going
Did we
sideways.
wake up the cotton traders first?
Yeah, but look at where now the boring part is. Remember, it was here to here for the longest time. Now it's at a higher range. The lows are all coming in on top of this consolidation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're just jammed up against this half square. So we take out the half square, which is 90-30.
Right.
This thing should run and should run well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at even today, Barrie. They sold it off and then bought it up near the end of the day.
Yeah.
Close was up here at the top of the bar.
Yeah.
So this, I think this, it's a matter of time, and the time is getting closer because of the price action. I mean, just look at the higher lows coming up since the June low. It's having more and more trouble making any downside progress. Anything else you want to add about, these consolidations and how to deal with them? Because the next one is something similar.
How to deal with the consolidations? Well,
the frustration of not knowing exactly when it's going to break, right? Where you because I can understand if people say, "Oh, he's been talking about this for a while, and this thing just keeps going sideways."
When is it going to happen, right?
Right.
Well, but I think you pointed out exactly what people should be watching. It's not time necessarily; it's time and price. So as you're waiting, it's not like you don't have anything to look at. You have price telling you exactly what's happening.
Right.
Anyway, that's how I lean into it, because if you're looking at the price pattern, you're looking at the structure, it's telling you, every day it's giving you a little bit more information. So here you can see we're making higher lows. So it's pressing higher. There's no question. And we're still basing, no question. We haven't broken out yet. And that half square, I think, basically Thursday's high, right? We take that out.
Yeah.
And we get on top of that square, then I think we could have a decent run. So,
and you could see the key thing with these consolidations is once it does break out, this is when everybody piles in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody that's been trading this range, or everybody that's been, waiting for the move, jumps on it.
Well, momentum always kicks in, that's why breakouts can be so hard to get into.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they just go.
And I have a real problem with that, which is why I try to pick up early on this through the clues that Barrie was talking about and I was talking about, which is the higher lows.
Mm-hmm.
We're now staying on top of the consolidation, whereas for months and months we were in this range. We're now on top of that range.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all sort of subtle clues telling you that it's being accumulated.
Right. Exactly.
And for what reason, we don't know, but we'll find out. First the pattern, then the news.
My price action is really the only way to do this.
And speaking of price action, here's another one of I call them the sleepy twins.
Yeah.
Nat gas.
Mm-hmm.
But if you notice, again, it doesn't take any technical analysis, just look at it with your eyes. What do you see? There's a like an upward slope in the way the lows are coming now, right? The lows are coming since April. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 higher lows.
Mm-hmm.
And now we did have a contract switchover, and we were talking about that with the ES. It's funny how even though the contracts switch over, the geometry and the levels still work very well. I mean, look at where the lows have been this week on the contract switchover.
Yep.
Right on top of the square.
Yep.
And so the curl is happening. I don't know what the news is going to be. I don't know what the event is going to be that causes this thing to move, but somebody in the know is continuing to accumulate this. And based on the geometry, we're seeing that it's unfolding in a bullish pattern.
Mm.
So the nat gas, the other one I wanted to show on the nat gas. Oh, I'll go back to the copper. I mean, the cotton too, because the higher time frames are showing something there too. See on the weekly,
Mm-hmm.
on the weekly, these bars are all getting closes on top of the consolidation and the triangle.
Yep.
It's just waiting for, the launch codes. That's all. And when this thing goes out of a triangle, look at this triangle and look at the move that came out of this once it broke out. Massive. This is what it likes to do. That's the weekly there. Let's go back to nat gas because I'll show you the weekly on that one.
But you know how important 90 is in Gann, Gann squares and Gann's works and levels and division of the square. Mm-hmm. So here we're, looking at the cotton really quick, 90 looks like the key level.
90 is the key level.
Yeah.
Yep. 90 is key. All right, let's look at the weekly on gas. Poking out of that triangle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And again, big moves out of triangles. Look at this triangle.
Yep.
It likes to do those. So the sleepy twins are still sleeping, but they're kind of, in that little phase right before they wake up, starting to stretch, trying to open their eyes. I think they're going to run. Barrie, how are you handling the different markets, knowing that we're coming into this cycle window here and end of quarter?
Well, one thing we noticed was all the, a lot of the markets pushing right into corners. Even wheat, 360 by 360. We had
a lot of endings.
And so we want to see if those endings can be confirmed and we have new directions, or we're going to have continuations. And some of them are pretty evident. Some not so much. I mean, look at bonds, right? Bonds, dollars kind of easy to kind of take a shot at that. Bonds could be finished here for a little while. I mean, we've had a nice downtrend.
Sure.
S&P is a little bit tricky if you're looking at the NASDAQ and everything, but we're looking at the weekly. So it looks like, we could correct. We could correct for 5 days and still turn down. So I would say it's safe to play by levels. And so because of all the corners where, normally I get right on top of the levels because levels are the ones that the market has to take out.
Mm-hmm.
One way or the other, you have to cross these prices. And for me, it's the easiest way to monitor something, even before patterns, exactly where price is. So.
No, I agree with that. And the thing about these, I always try and look at intermarket flows too. What's interesting is that stocks went into a corner. Bonds went into a corner.
Yep.
The dollar went into a corner. And what's been happening to get to these corners? Bonds have been selling off. The dollar's been super strong. And then stocks have been selling off.
And gold sold off along with the dollar going up.
Right.
Yeah.
So if these are corners, let's say the market made a bottom, the dollar made a top of some kind, bonds made a low of some kind. It fits with the flows and the regime that we've been in lately, that those things are consistent with stocks going up, dollar flattening out, bonds rallying. What the message that the market's giving us and the technicals are giving us fits with the flows that we've seen recently.
Hmm.
And it's happening right into a cycle window.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be watching to say, okay, do bonds catch a bid? Does the dollar, flatten out a little bit or correct a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Then are stocks following through?
Right.
Is that regime holding, or is that changing too with the cycle? Right, we got to watch that.
Right. That's a good.
So, but I thought it was when I was going through my review for the recording, and you started doing yours. I thought it was really interesting how all of these different markets were going into some sort of ending, whether it was an ABCD or a 90 or a 45 or some sort of very important price and time level,
Mm-hmm.
all at the same time.
Right.
Like all the squares that came up on sugar this week. The wheat, to look at things that are not like directly correlated, where we're seeing flows going in and out. There's a reason sugar went into a corner. There's a reason, wheat potentially went into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Something's shifting, and what our job is to look at the clues from price and the levels that we have to say, okay, what is the result of that shift? What's most likely to happen? And you're really good about keeping an open mind and not having like sort of preconceived notions about, what it means. You let price tell you that.
Yeah, price definitely. Well, we have two things. We're looking at watching the cycles, and that's what you just talked about. We talked about how all these endings are coming. We're having squares. It's a quarterly marker. Gann talked about quarters being really important times for change of trend. Mm-hmm. And so all of these things are lined up. So here's a point where we pause, and now we re-examine the corners to see how many cycles went through, what do we have at the bottoms and highs and lows. And some of those are going to get traction and go in new directions, and some won't. And we have to, the earlier we figure that out, the easier it gets. And
amen to that.
Yeah, and the only early way I know how to figure it out is really by looking at the price levels that we trust, generating them the way we trust them and looking at them. Plus, we're sharing all of that with you guys. So let us know if you have other ways of doing these things. Everybody has a different angle on things.
Yeah, it's always great to hear and learn new things. No question about it. Well, listen, great job on the show, Barrie. Good coverage of this critical weekend that we're coming up on. We'll be watching price action Sunday night with the futures, and Monday certainly, because we need those clues. And as you said, the earlier we figure out what it's doing, the better the risk reward in getting in the trades. So great job, and thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ben. And one announcement I forgot about this, which is we said we'll do some kind of a tutorial on squares this month, and I just realized it's the 29th.
Right.
So October. We'll try to get it done early part of October and get it out there so you guys have some kind of a tutorial to kind of go through and see what we do and the reasons why we do it. And if you like our work, please remember to subscribe, click the likes, share, and maybe click on the bell for alerts. Good job, Ben. Thank you. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.